Equinox in 1 minute. 1 is change mode between day and night. In night mode, 2 is put enemies to sleep, 3 is make enemies do less damage, 4 is overshields on kill and heals on ability deactivation. In day mode, 2 is make enemies faster but easier to kill, 3 is a strength buff for you and allies, 4 is a small initial damage as well as a big explosion on deactivation, which scales off how many enemies you or allies have killed. There are a lot of builds, but here's a couple. Low level nuke build. You would want max range and some strength and third abilities augment. In day mode you would activate your 3 and then 4. If enemies survive the initial damage, kill a few and then recast your 4 for the big explosion. Sleep build. You want hydration and range and maybe the second abilities augment depending on the mission, and you will spam your second ability in night mode. Here are some more ideas if you want more builds. Nezha in 1 minute. 1 leaves a trail which if you or an ally stands on, you will be cleansed of status effects and be immune to knockbacks. 2 is a massive damage multiplier for any enemies hit by the ring, and they have increased chance of dropping health and energy ore. You can also recast the ability to teleport to the ring. 3 is a 90% damage reduction and complete immunity to all status effects and knockbacks. 4 is your CC, use 2 unaffected enemies to get a lot more rings and spread the damage multiplier. Nezha's 1 is not too useful, so here's a list of abilities to try on it instead. Here's a couple of builds. A roar build for maximum damage output, keep your 1 and 3 active at all times and use your 2 on super heavy units or for getting energy orbs. And here's the gloom build for liches and sisters. Packs both plus growing power, then activate Gloom for almost a 95% slow. And keep it active via second abilities energy orbs and use your 2 for more damage. Frost in 1 minute. First ability is a single target freeze which is only useful for its augment and popping third abilities bubbles. But without the augment it's mostly just a helmet spot. Second ability puts 6 cold procs on enemies in front of you. It's basically a 50% slow effect if you just cast it once. But with the augment you can get a lingering 75% slow effect on top of that. Third ability is a point defense with 4 seconds of invulnerable damage absorption, making it scale infinitely. It also slows enemies inside of the bubble by 67%, but it blocks even your shots from outside, so pop it with 1 if needed. Fourth ability is your crowd control, armor strip and a low level nuke. If you combine 4th augment and 3rd ability, you can solo any defense mission. Here are some helmet ideas. And here's a low level nuke build. Just use your 4. And a defense build. Use your 3 on the point and your 4 when a lot of enemies are around you. Wukong in 1 minute. First ability is your twin, which will kill stuff with half of your damage. Press 1 on a target to change that half damage to a 3 times damage for that specific target. With the augment you can also hold 1 to get an amazing 20 meter CC. Second ability gives you movement, healing, invisibility and invincibility, and it even lets you do finishers. Third ability is your survivability. It will make you and your twin invincible for 2 seconds and give you up to 1500 extra armor. Fourth ability is your exalted melee, which when activated both you and your twin will use it. With the augment it will have even more damage. Here are some helmet ideas. Here's a disruption stomp build. This build is about the stomp that will affect Demolist and marking them for the twin to kill. And here's a melee build. Basically just activate your abilities, then just press E a lot. Volt in 1 minute. First ability is a simple shock, mostly useful for its augments damage buff or as a helmet spot. Second ability gives you reload speed, melee attack speed, and movement speed. Third ability is an invincible shield that boosts any shots that pass through it with 50% extra electricity elemental damage, and it will double your modded crit damage, though it doesn't seem to affect melee. Fourth ability has CC and AoE damage, but instead of directly damaging enemies, it makes enemies damage each other. So the more enemies you have, the more damage you'll do, meaning the damage mostly scales off range. And this ability's augment is super useful for survivability. Here are some helmet ideas. Here's a damage build. Just use your 4th ability, but be warned, this works for armor stuff up to 80, for anything else it works just fine at most levels. Here's a general use build. Press 3 and pick up your shield with X, then press 2 for reload and 4 for survivability and CC. Mesa in 1 minute. First ability gives you a bit more damage for a single multi-shot if you activate it, shoot stuff and then deactivate it. It's one of the most useless abilities in the game and an ideal helmet spot. Second ability is a 25% damage buff for you and one ally at a time. It also has some nice CC which helps with the survivability. Third ability is up to 95% damage reduction but only for ranged attacks, so watch out for melee enemies. Fourth ability is your damage. Just press 4 and aim at the general direction of your enemies while holding mouse 1. Mid-air kills are also her specialty at lower levels. Here are some helmet ideas. Here's a build for her pistols. Here's a high level damage build. Activate your 2 and 3 and use your 4 to kill anything that moves. Here's the exact same build again, except this time it is for lower levels where survivability is not an issue. What's that? You enjoyed and want to subscribe? That's an excellent idea. Limbo in 1 minute. Firstly, there's our plane of existence and there's Rift. Damage does not cross between these two, except for abilities. You can press the roll key to get in and out of the Rift, and enemies killed in the Rift give you 10 energy. First ability sends allies and enemies in a cone in front of you to the Rift for a set duration. Second ability stops time for enemies in the Rift, freezing them in place. Third ability puts a debuff on enemies in the Rift around you. If they exit the Rift, they will be sent back to the Rift and bring nearby enemies with them. If the affected enemy is killed, the effect moves to another nearby target. Fourth ability creates a bubble. Anything inside it will be sent to the Rift and anything leaving it will leave the Rift. Here are some helmet ideas. Here's a max duration build. This build is good for mobile defense and excavation. Use your 4 on what you want to defend and 2 to stop time, then 3 to prevent enemies from leaving the Rift. Titania in 1 minute. First ability gives you a small CC as well as both status and knockback immunity. Hold 1 to cast it on yourself. Second ability gives you 50% damage reduction with thorns, thus reduces enemy accuracy. Full moon buffs your pet and entangle makes enemies walk slower. Third ability distracts enemies, making them less likely to shoot you. It also helps gather enemies. Fourth ability is your movement, single target damage, as well as an asset in survivability with the 50% evasion and the butterflies that draw enemy fire. Make sure to use Razor Wing Blitz. Here are some helmet ideas. Here's the speed build. Just use your 4 and then cast your first ability once. You can use this to speed through any simple mission like capture or rescue. Here's an index build. Use your 4 and hold 1 to get the speed boost, then find enemies from the minimap. And you have a built-in vacuum, so no need to worry about points. Revenant in 1 minute. Use the first ability on enemies to turn them into thralls. Any enemy a thrall damages becomes a thrall. On death, you get a sprinkler which slowly turns nearby enemies into thralls. Second ability gives you stacks of damage and vulnerability and knockback and status immunity. When a stack is removed, you'll be invincible for 1 second and that enemy will be stunned for 5 seconds. Third ability is a dash that leeches health and shield and deals percentage based damage, which is exponentially more on thralls and can reach 100%. Hitting thralls with the dash restores stacks for the second ability. Fourth ability is your damage. You can also double the damage and energy cost by holding the fire button. This ability is mostly useful at lower levels. Here are some helmet ideas. Here's a Thrall Pact build with Roar on 4. With 2 for survivability, just keep 7 Thralls for Thrall Pact bonus and get extra damage with Roar. Baruuk in 1 minute. Baruuk's passive is Restraint. The lower this meter is, the more passive damage reduction you get. First ability makes you immune to any non-AoE attack coming from 180 degrees in front of Baruuk, but this only works when you're not attacking, and enemy attacks will reduce the Restraint meter. Second ability creates a lingering field that slows enemies and then puts them to sleep. Restraint is reduced for every enemy hit by the effect. Third ability gives you daggers that disarm enemies and 10% damage reduction for each one, up to 90%. You can lose 1 per second if enemies are in range, but you can recast the ability. Fourth ability is your damage, but it doesn't cost energy. Instead, it increases your restraint meter, and you can't use it if restraint meter is full. This ability's augment is crucial for dealing damage. Here are some helmet ideas. Here's a build focusing on survivability and damage. Activate your 3 and use your 2 to reduce the restraint meter, then activate your 4 and get to killing.